Wood from Surrey, who's not giving her an inch. Surrey, of course, a club that continue to get better year on year in terms of the athletes and the cohort that they produce. And you can see there as they come past us at the barrier, Wedgwood has around 2.5 lengths clear on half of Oxford University lightweights.
Really difficult for the sculler from Oxford University to come back from such a setback as they go through the barrier. We often talk about the gladiatorial style racing here at Henley, and nowhere is that more pertinent than in the single sculls. All alone, just trying to edge back in your opposition, but as soon as you lose sight of them, it gets harder and harder with each stroke. You can see again there, the sculler from Surrey University back into the centre of the course again. Umpire, not too fussed about this time. She obviously believes that the sculler has enough of a lead over the Oxford sculler to be able to use that advantage as she comes past our camera now.
I suppose it's an athlete's natural tendency to veer into the middle. I'd rather be in the middle of the river, as far away as possible from either side of the booms, just from my experience of steering down this course. But Wedgwood making this one look easy at the moment, considering it's a lightweight event. Aspirational, which is always one of the most competitive categories here at Henley Women's Regatta. She is putting paid to that myth and dominating her semi-final of the lightweight single sculls. Barring any late disasters, and it would be a disaster of catastrophic proportions, she is going to secure passage through to the final of the Aspirational lightweight double sculls. We have 326 coming up next. That's the second semi-final. Greenbank Falmouth, Sarah Lewis on the Berkshire station, who I know competed here last year, and also Coxless at Henley Royal Regatta for a Greenbank Falmouth Britannia Challenge Cup crew, up against Wallingford Rowing Club Slater on the Buckinghamshire station. Those two crews squared and buried at the start. We're just at the moment watching Wedgwood, of Surrey University making her way down the course, and so we can move back to the start. There we go, for Greenbank up against Wallingford, Berkshire and Buckinghamshire respectively.
You can see there what we often see, especially in the singles, even more so in the lightweight singles, very, very quick starts away from the stake boats there as they come past Temple Island. They've got less body mass to move, and they take advantage of that really quick flying start there from both scullers. It appears, however, that the start was too quick for Slater from Wallingford Rowing Club, who's just lost touch of her steering there, being warned by the umpire to stay away from the Greenbank Scullers racing line.
Yeah, Greenbank Falmouth Rowing Club, a little known rowing club actually, based in Stithians Lake near Redruth in Cornwall, and is only one of 2 rowing clubs in that part of the world. So great to see Sarah Lewis here competing not only at Henley Women's Regatta, but actually pushing on towards the business end of the competition. As I say, we did see a Britannia Challenge Cup entry from the club at Henley Royal last year, which she coxed, I believe. But here, just being led by Slater from Wallingford.
This race seems to be paying testament to the idea that these lightweight scullers races are always quite tight. And as they come to the quarter-mile mark there, I don't think I could call that, Tom. I think the camera angle can be a bit deceptive at this point.
Yeah, quarter-mile mark, very little to choose between Sarah Lewis and Hannah Slater. You can see Sarah on the left-hand side of your screen in the yellow boat. Hannah from Wallingford probably leading this one, but by no more than about a canvas, a quarter of a length. This is actually Hannah's first year of rowing in a single scull. She joins Wallingford for a year in industry, but heads back to Bath University in the autumn to complete her studies and return to university rowing. So taking a year out to complete at club level in the single scull, and doing a pretty good job here, leading the established sculler Sarah Lewis to the quarter-mile mark.
Great job there of the sculler from Wallingford Rowing Club. Slater there, very aggressive stroke, really trying to send those puddles down to her opposition, just trying to gain that advantage. And as they come past us now, it's bow ball for bow ball. These scullers absolutely going for it, hell for leather. Really, really tight race so far, Tom.
Yeah, nice sharp pickup actually from Sarah Lewis in the Greenbank Falmouth shell. You can see she just feels, she looks quite relaxed as she comes up the slide. and then just jerks it forward at the catch, moving the boat along. And at the barrier, yeah, I think you're right, Ed, pretty much nothing to choose between them. Hannah Slater had led in the opening third, but she's been pegged back here by Sarah Lewis, which leaves us with a tantalising prospect for the final half of this semi-final of the Aspirational Lightweight Single Sculls.
Really exciting race there for the spectators here at Henley Women's Regatta as they come through the regatta enclosure. You can hear the wall of sound being produced by supporters for both Wallingford and Greenbank Falmouth as they pass through, still competing just to gain that edge, a few inches that will separate the winner from the loser.
Yeah, neck and neck this one. Hammer and tongs, barrel to barrel, every little cliche that you'd like to implement for this one is probably relevant. It's probably Hannah Slater actually who has just stretched out a little bit again. I think she was pegged back by Sarah Lewis, but has responded and probably has the slightest of advantages there. I mean, as they came past the static camera, it was no more than a couple of feet, if that. But actually you can see there Hannah Slater just responding, just trying to drive the boat forward. It's so difficult in these single sculls. You can change speed so quickly, so a push can actually have a devastating effect on the outcome of the race. And actually Hannah Slater, I think there, has just decided, nope, I've had enough of this. You can either have to come with me or I'm going to leave you behind. And she's just kicked on. She's trying to break the back of this one before it gets too heated as they come into the closing stages.
Yeah, you can just see there Slater from leading the way now from Wallingford Rowing Club as they come to the closing stages of this race. You see the pain on her face there and the lactate building up in the legs. That's no match for the mental fortitude she's built up over many years, training with long winters and tough regatta seasons. That's just allowing her now to edge out on her competition from Greenbank.
Yeah, she's kicked Slater in a big way, and I think she's now got herself out to around 3/4 of a length. It's her race now to lose. And keeping the rate high, the intensity on. I suppose if you sprint at this stage, this is quite an early stage to put in a sprint. But hopefully the momentum will carry you through. Well, that's what she's hoping. Sarah Lewis there being warned by the umpire to stay on her station. But I think that's our final camera angle on the course. It gives you a clue as to how far's left to run. Both of these scullers now, as you say, Ed, will be feeling the burn, feeling the lactic building up in their legs. But they know that the finish line's just around the corner. And Hannah Slater's had a really, really impressive middle third to this race. She decided that she'd had enough of rowing alongside her opponent. She wanted to take control and move out, and that's exactly what she's done. And she's now in a commanding position as we enter the final 15 strokes of this semi-final of the Aspirational Lightweight Singles. Ooh, bit of an issue there for Hannah Slater. She just caught the boat, or just caught her blade underneath the water. I'm not sure how that's going to impact her, or if Sarah Lewis has even realised she's done it. Just rate comes up, and there we go. Hannah Slater safely across the line and into the final of the Aspirational Lightweight Single Sculls. So just in time we move back to the start for the Junior 16 quads. It's Henley Rowing Club, no surprises there, on the Berkshire station, up against the Isle of Ely on the Buckinghamshire station.
Isle of Ely, one of only a few clubs training just above Cambridge in the centre of England, competing there in a King's School Ely shell. Very, very close partners, those two clubs competing together. Over the last few years, both here and at Henley Royal, we've seen several combinations with those two clubs doing incredibly well, progressing to semi-finals and on occasion finals, especially in the Quadruple Sculls.
Yeah, Henley, of course, the holders of this event, so they'll be pretty keen, I imagine, to retain that title. But the Isle of Ely, who just seem to get better with every year, putting out really, really strong quads, keeping them honest at this stage.
Well, I think we should have a good look at the Isle of Ely, because we know how good Henley are, but Isle of Ely yesterday, they beat the Wycliffe quad, and Wycliffe quad have been going extremely well this year, so that was a good match-up for day one. And Isle of Ely sculling very, very well. Henley, of course, have the advantage. They train on this stretch every weekend and most weekdays as well. Tremendous programme that Henley have. If you drive through Henley in the winter months, you need to be very careful because all of these Henley junior athletes are running with their high-vis vests on, and they put an awful lot of work into their winter programme. As Henley just a quarter of a length up over the Isle of Ely as they go past our commentating position. Having a look over there, the three man sculling very nicely, Tom. Still just a quarter of a length in it. Isle of Ely will want now, they've just upped, they're putting a bit of a push in, Isle of Ely, to try and get back to Henley. It's exactly where they need to be in touch as they come to the enclosures, because the local girls will have tremendous support. You would think more support than the Isle of Ely. Henley still maintain that quarter of a length lead despite that push from Isle of Ely.
Yeah, great to see such tight racing, especially in the quad, my favourite category. And actually these two crews in such close proximity to each other. Henley just straining to move out. You can see bolt upright style actually at the catch. They're just putting the blades in, just dropping them in, nice and relaxed, and leaving the boat through. A little shout there from the girl in the 3-seat. I think this perhaps is the time for Henley to move. As you say, Greg, they've got a bit of support on the bank. They'll have the cheers of the coaches and the parents ringing in their ears, and I think now perhaps is the time to move away. But the Isle of Ely have just stuck with them like a really annoying band-aid you can't just peel off. They have refused to let Henley get away.
Best metaphor I've heard this morning.
Thanks, I appreciate that, Greg. Tried my best.
It's really, really tight race. Fantastic race. Great focus. You can see in that picture there. Great focus by the Isle of Ely athletes as they're trying to keep up with Henley. Fantastic race we've got, and Henley's still just that. Gosh, must be a canvas in it at the moment.
Yeah, nothing in it at all. Henley looking really relaxed actually. I know that race 328 has started between Headington and York City in the second semi-final of the Junior 16 quads. We will keep one eye on that, but it seems to me that the action is going on between Henley and the Isle of Ely. Just Henley, I feel they need to raise their rate a little bit. The intensity needs to come on now. They need to try and kick for the line. There we go. I think there was a bit of a response there. The rate's gone up. They need to move away from the Isle of Ely, or conversely, I'm not sure what the Isle of Ely have got left in the tank, what they can throw at Henley, and see who can combat the best.
Well, you can certainly see who's in charge of the calling of the pushes there. The athlete in the 3-seat has called twice now, and as you say, Tom, we just heard her make a bit of a shout, and the rate has gone up, and it will be whether Isle of Ely can respond. It's still a pretty tight race. Both crews now sprinting for the line.
Yeah, Henley have kicked, definitely kicked. You can see the blade work's still really, really good actually. The rate's gone right up, but I think Henley have just moved out finally ahead of the Isle of Ely after sort of playing tag with them all the way down. They've just stretched out now. Just watching Henley make their way down towards the line. I think they've
still
secured.
Not much in it, Tom, is
No,
it?
not at all, but I think they've probably just got enough.
What a fantastic race.
There we go, 3/4 of a length, half a length.
It was just that final sprint, wasn't it? They just kicked on just that bit earlier. You can see what it's taken out of them though. Fantastic race, well done both crews.
Yeah, that's what they needed, Henley, and that's what they probably need to do against one of these two crews as well. Headington currently leading York City, but Headington playing a dangerous game with their line being warned by the umpire to get back onto their station, which they're going to need to do.
Yeah, that's 2 warnings now from the umpire, and if York City were to make a protest at the end, they will go down to how many warnings that the umpire has actually given and whether Headington have responded immediately. And I suspect they did, and we look there, York now have strayed across.
Yeah, York City not making life easy for
Oh
themselves
my goodness.
at all.
That's exactly what you don't want to do though, Tom. You know, you've strayed into the wrong water. You want to come back gradually, not turn the rudder immediately, because that takes the pace off the boat. And you could just see that just at that stage, the pace went off the boat, and it allowed Headington just to take, I would say, half a length out, just in that one manoeuvre.
Yeah, it's so crucial in this match racing to have a bow girl who's got that ability to just steer delicately. And I think York City just overcorrected a little bit coming into the middle, and then they're still sort of unable to find the right line. Headington, though, to be fair, also in the middle of the river, but able to capitalise and have certainly come out of that better of the two crews. They now have around a length on York City.
So what we don't know, Tom, is who actually is steering. Because we had this conversation yesterday. If you're in heads during the winter, it's usually the bow athlete who will steer. But in these match races where you've got either buoys or booms on either side, it's quite often it's the athlete in the 3 seat who does the steering, and we've even known that there's some strokes who are steering as well. Makes it a bit easier for them further up the boat that they are. So we actually don't know who is steering. But Headington now, they've really capitalised on that bit of a mistake from York. The rate still high, but they seem comfortable sculling at that rate. We often get these matches, don't we, in Henley Women's? It's Headington and Henley, Headington, both fantastic clubs, and again it's going to be a fantastic race later on at 2:20.
Yeah, Headington looking like they might well have secured passage through barring any late disasters in the Junior 16 quads, and as you say, Greg, we'll meet Henley for the final later on this afternoon. Race 329 now underway, which is our semi-final, or our first semi-final of the championship pairs. Leander Club up against Tideway Scullers School on the Berkshire and Buckinghamshire stations respectively. Tideway Scullers School straying quite close to those booms, and that's a bit of a crash. That's very unfortunate from their perspective. Nothing you can do when that happens. It's really unfortunate, but the booms are pretty much race ending. Leander just able to now row away completely at their own leisure, and Scullers look like they're going to pay the price for that little steering mishap.
I mean, this is the most difficult boat to steer, and they're getting quite close again.
Yeah, headed back into the booms again, aren't they?
And that's where we see it. That's
not good.
Gosh, just hit the post as well, and it is really.
Well, from Leander's perspective, this is probably as good as they could have hoped for, though they won't have wanted to see Tideway Scullers encounter the booms. It means that they now get a nice row down the course. They can keep the pressure on probably until the barrier, but they've got comfortable distance over their opposition.
And of course, some of you watching might be saying, well, why doesn't the umpire help them out? The umpire is not allowed to help them out unless there is a safety issue. And so Leander almost now a row over. You can see them very comfortable now, just keeping an eye on Tideway Scullers, but it really is, it's too much to ask for Tideway Scullers to come back from that. They must be feeling utterly wretched at the moment.
And they're still very close to those booms, aren't they? You wonder perhaps if there's an issue with their rudder, because I saw these girls navigate the course successfully yesterday, and they actually placed second at the Met in Women's Championship pairs, so I think this would have been a really good race had it managed to come to fruition. But alas, Leander able to just paddle down the course, and credit to Leander for navigating their station successfully as well. Home water for them, so you expect nothing less. So to give you a reminder of what's happened in the last few races, we've had a few semi-finals, starting with the Junior 16 Coxed Fours. Race 323 was a win for Kent School Boat Club over Headington School by a length and a half, and Marlow will be joining them in the final of that event, beating Tideway Scullers School by a length and a half. The Aspirational lightweight single Sculls. The first race went the way of University of Surrey by 3 lengths over Hoff of Oxford University lightweight women's. And then race 326 was a win for Hannah Slater from Wallingford Rowing Club by a length over Greenbank Falmouth. Junior 16 quads 327 was a win for Henley Rowing Club by 3/4 of a length over the Isle of Ely, and it was Headington School who won race 328, defeating York City Rowing Club. So Leander making their way down the course. If you're just joining us and you're wondering why Leander looked pretty relaxed for a semi-final, unfortunately the Tideway Sculler School came into close contact with the booms a couple of times early in the race, effectively deciding this one as a contest, and now Leander just paddling down the course to secure passage through to the final of the championship pairs due to happen later today. Next race on the course will be Cambridge up against Durham.
And this contest, they're racing for a very prestigious trophy indeed, the Redgrave Challenge Vase, sponsored by Sir Steve and Lady Redgrave. So quite something to get your hands on.
Just see Cambridge and Durham at the start. Played square and buried. Of course, this Cambridge crew both competed in the boat race this year in the winning light blue outfit. And Durham, this is the third time I've seen these girls this weekend. Lots of horsepower, lots of technical ability in the boat. And of course, Cambridge and Durham, two of the foremost academic and sporting institutions in the country. So plenty on the line here as the two crews leave the stake boats.
And again, quite close, Tom.
Yeah, not much to choose. Tricia Smith and Pippa Whitaker in the famous attire of light blue. Just stretching out. Quite close together, Greg.
Yeah, it's so. I just find it so difficult that first 100 metres, because you can just see the boys on the right hand side, and there's just a bit of a pond there, and it's difficult to gauge your steering because you can't follow the bank. If you follow the bank, you'll go into the buoys, and I know you know that, but your mind plays tricks on you. So I suspect that's what happened here. But the steering's come back on side now. So that's the Cambridge crew up to half a length lead over Durham. Durham have done well actually. You've seen them a few times, Tom. They beat Leander in the quarterfinal yesterday, and then beat Bath and Nottingham Composite on Friday. So they've had some good races. I'm really working hard to try and stay with Cambridge. They're really pushing hard.
Yeah,
Okay.
Cambridge driving on here as they come down towards the barrier, about a length ahead of Durham. Second place at the Met a few weekends ago.
See, the other thing I'm just having a look at there, Tom, is you as you know, you can change the length of your blades, both the inboard and outboard, and the gearing I would suggest for Cambridge is just a bit longer. They're very powerful. They can't whip the blade through the water as Durham are doing. I suspect that their outboard is a bit longer. They're really going for length. That's a great view there of the Cambridge and Durham crews. And Cambridge, as I'm suggesting, just that outboard is longer. They're going for longer strokes, and as you can work it out through physics, if you've got that wider arc, you need more power to push the blade through the water. It does mean that if you've got that power, then the boat will go quicker than if the outboard is a little bit less in length.
Cambridge getting a lovely backsplash off their blades, and now just stretching away from Durham, who you can see appearing into your picture on the right hand side. A couple of lengths down on the girls in light blue. Of course, this will all be music to the ears of Leander, the fact that this race isn't done and dusted at the halfway stage, because Leander had a paddle down the course, and that means that they will be facing a crew with a bit more fatigue in the legs. I'm sure Cambridge, if they can, will be keen to just relax in the second half, although Durham are unlikely to allow them to do that. So watching Cambridge make their way down the course, we can move back to the start for the first semi-final of the Aspirational Academic Coxless Fours, Glasgow University on the Berkshire station, and London University, the University of London, I imagine, on the Buckinghamshire station. Yeah, UL in their distinctive purple kit. quite difficult to see from that camera as to who has the advantage early on. Again, Coxless boat, so no one in there to steer aside from one of the athletes themselves. Let's hope no one comes into contact with any booms. It looks like Glasgow had the better of the two starts here.
Yeah, quite aggressive start, Tom, from Glasgow. Really up their rate, and still quite a high rate. They're going to settle, I'd say, in the next 10 strokes, but they're going to settle with a bit of a lead. As you're saying, no Coxes to help them out here, so steering pretty impressive from both crews here. This is the Aspirational Coxless fours.
The Aspirational Academic, Coxless Falls, Glasgow and UL. Just watching Cambridge wind it up on the top right hand side of your screen, moving towards the finish line, still comfortably ahead of Durham, who've had a good weekend actually. This crew have looked really strong throughout, but just met their match in the form of two boat race veterans. Moving up towards the line, securing passage through to the final of the championship pairs. Glasgow and UL just swinging by us now, and Glasgow with, I don't know, about half a length maybe over their opponents from the University of London.
Yeah, UL just putting a big push in there. You can just see them really trying hard to get back on alongside the Glasgow crew, really working very, very hard. The stroke rate just about a pip above Glasgow. Some great rowing going on in Scotland at the moment at the universities. That's Glasgow, Edinburgh, Strathclyde as well, St Andrews. We're seeing more and more crews coming down and doing well in the southern events that we have here. So it's about half a length now, Glasgow holding off that push from UL. The Aspirational Academic Cox's fours for the Cathy Cruikshank Trophy. And as you say, Tom, all of these semis will have about 3.5 hours between the semis and the final, so not a great deal of recovery. So they won't be thinking of that at the moment, of course. Just making sure that they get to the final is the most important at the moment.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And I think in a final, Greg, it might be the case that in quarter to semis you feel the fatigue a little bit more, but in the final, the adrenaline and the actual presence of an event like that just drives you through. But at the moment, UL doing their level best to get back on terms with Glasgow, who have led them pretty much from stroke one, but not by much, as you say, half a length, a third of a length to the crew from Scotland. But it looks like Glasgow in that black kit probably, I don't know, have around half, a quarter of a length, nothing much to choose. This race is finally poised.
They just can't get rid of them, can they? They just can't get rid of them, really pushing hard. You can see Glasgow, I bet what's going through the mind is saying, look, we're really rowing really hard here. We've got this half a length and we just can't shake them off. There's the bow athlete just looking across to the left thinking, come on, break. Stroke person head down, absolutely putting everything into it. And UL, we can't see them in the shot, but they are there and they are hanging on.
Well, Glasgow are actually rowing really, really well. Their rate's gone up and they've maintained their form, catching the boat out front and just levering it along. But as you say, Greg, UL refusing to die. Actually, they've responded as well now, and we're into the final third of the race with pretty much nothing to choose between them. So it'll be very interesting to see who comes out on top here. And
credit to whoever's steering in those boats. They've steered a really, really good line. Umpire Roy Prosser hasn't had to get involved at all. I think he's just having a look at the cruisers coming down the thinking, I quite fancy one of those.
Well, it's Glasgow who have responded here. They're continuing to move out. You can see there they've established, around 3/4 of a length. So really good response from Glasgow to see off the attentions of UL. So we move back to start, race 3-3-2. KSRV Nord of the Netherlands up against Imperial College. Nord on the Berkshire station and Imperial on the Buckinghamshire station. And it is the crew from Holland who have had the better of the two starts. But again, converging together in the middle of the course. crew from Holland, KSRV Nord, regular visitors to both Henley Women's and the Royal, putting in a good account of themselves so far as they come towards the quarter-mile mark. They've got around a length on Imperial College, so the narrative of this race somewhat different to the preceding Glasgow London University contest. Nord now just stretching out, trying to establish themselves as the market leader here and trying to make sure that they have clear water so that they can just stamp their authority and take complete control of the semi-final. I have to say, Greg, this Nord crew look like quite a tasty unit.
They are definitely. They've not really been troubled at all in the previous two races, beating the crew from University of Tulsa easily on Friday, and then yesterday beating Bristol University by 3.5 lengths. So yeah, this is a powerful group of girls in here, and they're moving the boat really rather well.
Well, everyone talks at length about the quality of Brooks and Newcastle here in the UK, and of course the multitude of strong collegiate programmes in the United States of America, but the Dutch regularly produce athletes and crews which upset the odds here at Henley Royal and Henley Women's. Of course, Neerhouse, one of the most famous, but Nord, Laha, Delftse Studenten, Protes Iris, there's lots of them that are strong every time they come across here, and this Nord crew no different from the pattern. But Imperial actually look like they're pegging them back stroke by stroke here.
Yeah, they are. Certainly this is the hardest race that Nord have had, and good on Imperial. They're not giving up, are they? Really pushing hard. But it seems to me, I think Nord are pretty comfortable there. They're just covering Imperial.
But it's now a case Nord have just rode out to a length and are just coming under sustained pressure here from Imperial. How can they respond? They haven't been in this situation before, as you say, Greg. Certainly not at this regatta. So do they have the mental fortitude to actually respond and facilitate this sort of sustained pressure? At this stage, I would say the answer is yes. They've responded really well.
I mean, they're just rowing a little more cleanly at this stage, aren't they? The catches are just that bit crisper. I mean, they're certainly not relaxed, but they seem comfortable just holding that length lead, whereas Imperial, of course, are having to push pretty hard, making just a couple of mistakes with their blade work. They're really pushing them hard.
Yeah, but I think importantly for Nord, that margin of lead hasn't really changed despite sustained attacks from Imperial. It's still around 3/4 of a length. But you can see the pain etched on their faces.
They're working really hard, Tom, actually, and I think they've been pretty surprised by this Imperial crew.
I don't know, just watching that, form might be going a bit here. They're looking a little bit more ragged, and Imperial, if they can smell this, they need to respond. They need to start to move through now if they can, because they're running out of water. The rate's there, it's gone up in the Imperial crew. I think they are trying to respond, buoyed on by the support on the bank that they'll undoubtedly have, and the coaches who might well be cycling alongside. They need to start to move now, Imperial, if they want to come through Nord, because Nord are looking a little bit more ragged. Perhaps used all the gas in their tank a little early, and Imperial mounting a big charge here. Significant charge, actually. Be interesting to see as they come past that static camera point how the standings are, because I think Imperial are coming on terms here.
They've really pushed hard, haven't they? What a terrific race.
Well, there we go, that's the finish line. We'll keep one eye on that.
Look, what a brilliant race. Well done, Imperial. Had they just been a little bit more on it from the beginning, and you can see Nord have definitely been in a race there. So again, that's going to be a terrific race later this afternoon. So we're just going to say thanks to Tom Morgan, who's done a tremendous stint as in the commentary chair over the last 3 days. His knowledge of rowing is encyclopedic, and we will miss him. Keep an eye out for junior rowing news as well if you are regular users of Twitter. There's no one more knowledgeable of junior rowing than this guy. But we're back to the exciting eights races, and now I'm joined by Ed, commentary chair, and I'll let him talk us through this first race of the academic aspirational 8s.
You can just see there the start of this race between Thames Rowing Club A and Vesta Rowing Club on the Berkshire and Buckinghamshire stations, respectively. Really, really exciting races, always from the 8s with that really quick start. As we can see now, our cameras just flicked onto it a second ago, and already they're approaching our commentary position here in the little caravan you can see on your picture. Thames Rowing Club just seem to have got out to that early lead over their opposition from Vesta, and as they come past us now, there's just clear water between those two crews.
We said yesterday, Thames going through a fantastic time, both their men's and women's squads, almost dominant in the club circuit at the moment. And remember, these are people who have a day job as well, so they're not professional athletes by any stretch of the imagination. They have to find time to train as well, and it's very, very difficult to do that. And as you can see, the Thames have got still maintain that length lead, rowing extremely well.
Really, really exciting 8 races for the spectators there. As we just pass through the regatta enclosure, loud, noisy, fast boats, and Thames are taking complete advantage of that with the power they've harnessed, really levering those blades through the water and lifting up with each stroke. You can just see, just starting to relax there as they start to break down those mental barriers the Vesta Rowing Club spent so long over the winter months building up.
Aspirational Club 8, they're racing for the Copus Cup, sponsored by the Copus Partnership.
We said earlier about the strength of Thames's programme. I believe they've got 3 or 4 8s entered in just one category coming up in a couple of weeks at Henley Regatta. Another one of the fantastic races that makes use of perhaps the most famous stretch of river water in the world for rowing events, Greg.
It's a real privilege, isn't it, to be here with these world-class athletes at this event, which has just grown and grown over the years, really due to the work of Miriam, Luke and her committee. Just done a tremendous job, and it's one of those events now that it is a world event. People here from all over the globe just want to be here competing at it, so it's a real testament to all the work that Miriam has done that this is such a big event now.
It is fantastic for the spectators here. If you can't make it down to Henley Women's Regatta today, do make sure to keep up with all the latest news with all our races live and on demand here on our YouTube channel, and the latest news from the regatta on all of our social media pages. And as we watch the conclusion of that race between the A crew from Thames Rowing Club and Vesta Rowing Club on the top right hand, we just flick down now to our next Aspirational Club 8s between Bristol City A and Agecroft Rowing Club.
So Bristol City had the unusual draw in the first round. They had to race their colleagues, Bristol B. They won that by 4.5 lengths, and then they were up against Lee yesterday and beat them. That's how they've got through to this semi-final. And it's Agecroft. They beat Mortlake on Friday, and then Thames C yesterday. That's how they've got through to here. Now you see Bristol with a faster start. Look at them at the rate right up there.
We know that Agecroft Rowing Club, big name down here on the domestic rowing circuit. Fantastic club, fantastic programme, and really are producing some athletes that can rival some of the best athletes that the country has to offer. But at the minute, unless I'm very much mistaken, it seems as if Bristol City are just having the edge over Agecroft. Yes, their fantastic drone shot there, just about a length. Bristol are dominating this, the second semi-final of the Aspirational Club 8s.
And City of Bristol on the stretch of difficult water in the harbour with some tight turns there. They've clearly wintered well and still pushing pretty hard. The rate right up there. They haven't broken Agecroft at all. It's just a length and not much more. So Agecroft will be pushing hard to get back on alongside them.
I do have a bit of a soft spot for 8s, Greg, as you heard them come past just now. That wall of sound, both from in the boat and from support on the bank. It really is something special to watch, whether you're in the boat or, as we are.
Well, look, I think the 8s is the greatest team sport actually in the world. I know there's lots of arguments about it, but that's 8 people, and if you're not putting the blade in at exactly the same time and taking it out at the same time, I mean, you're actually putting brakes on the boat. You have to be so together. And a great shot there of the Bristol Cox, because people sometimes focus on the 8 athletes who are pulling and pushing hard, but actually without that Cox, and it's not just the steering. And in races like this, the Cox can mean a difference between winning and losing. And Bristol's certainly being exhorted to try hard there by the Cox. He will be as equally, or she will be as equally exhausted as the athletes by the look of him.
You might be wondering there on the Bristol crew as they come past our camera once again what the little green straws are poking up out in front of each of the rowers. As Greg said a moment ago, if you don't get those blades in the water together, it really does put the brakes on the boat, and those straws there just help the athletes nail their timing. So absolutely in together and out together. And it looks like their brightly coloured straws are helping them to victory in this race.
It's small margins, isn't it, Ed? Little things like that will help. The technology that you can have in a boat now, you can actually get the technology that will measure the angle of the blade as it goes in the water, the power through it, the timing of the blade coming out, and then coaches will look at that and make adjustments as necessary. So it's quite a scientific sport as well these days.
Really exciting time both to be in a boat and working alongside crews out of the boat. So as we just watched the conclusion of that race in our top right hand between Bristol City A and Agecroft, we move down to the bottom left to see the first of our semi-finals for the Aspirational doubles sculls between Twickenham Rowing Club and Ipswich and Sudbury Rowing Club composite on the Buckinghamshire station.